Among Other Things weekly podcast with your hosts Nicholas Miller and Bruce Stewart.
Hey everybody, welcome to Stuff, Among Other Things, where we talk about stuff.
And other things. Sorry, I forgot I was here.
I'm Nick.
I'm Bruce.
And today we're going to talk about probably our most favorite passions on the planet, guitars. We absolutely love guitars. We've been playing them pretty much since we were adolescent, little tiny teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, you've been playing longer than I have. I started later on, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, you started off with playing bass primarily.
Right, yeah.
And I don't care what you say, you're still the best bass player within 500 miles.
5 miles?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that at all. Well, as we usually do, we start off with, a couple things about what we like, what our points of view are, and we'll just start right off the bat. Bruce, what's your favorite guitar brand?
I thought about that for a few moments, and I think that's a bit of a loaded question for me. I guess I don't know if loaded is appropriate, but it's not a black and white, straightforward type thing. My initial response was Fender, and you might be in that area with me as well. I love Fender and their products, in the whole Fender versus Gibson world that a lot of people play. I don't really necessarily feel like I'm playing favorites or I'm brand specific in that general sense. I don't feel biased. I've just played some Gibson products and I've played some Fender products, and the Fenders typically do it more for me, better playability and things of that nature. And I love the style, and I'm typically in my life, I'm more of a function over form kind of guy.
Right.
But in this case, no, I really need that form as well. Like, I don't care how well it plays. If it's ugly, you'll never catch me playing like a Dean ML. Mm-hmm. No matter how, it could be the top of the line one. It could be a several $1,000 guitar that's set up beautifully, plays great, intonations all locked in, fast, neck. I'll never play it. I'll never have the desire to even pick the thing up because they look ridiculous to me. So my initial reaction to favorite guitar brand was definitely Fender. But then as I thought about it, I think the best guitar brand for me personally is actually Ibanez.
Really?
Yeah, because they're playable. That 100% playability. Like when it comes down to actual function over form, and Ibanez guitars, I don't think they're ugly by any means. I like the looks of all of them or most of the models. They seem to play better for the money. You're into bare minimum $500-$700 in a Fender that plays as well as a $300 Ibanez.
Exactly. I've always kind of felt that way. Like, me personally, my first thought is going to go to Fender. Like, I got a giant Fender sticker across the back of my car.
Yeah.
That's what my Duosonic is. It's where my acoustic lives. It's the whole 9 yards. It's just what I've always been into. There for a while, it was one of those, you got to play Gibson. You got to have the top of the line. No, not really. Like, I don't have the money to play.
Right, yeah, I don't have
Gibson.
$30,000 to throw at a Paul.
Like,
or an SG.
I'm pretty sure it's a touchy subject about the whole, Gibson going bankrupt kind of deal.
Yeah.
There's a reason. It's because all your guitars are $35 million. If you were to just make them half their cost. Right,
which, I mean, they have their Epiphone line. I don't know... when you get into those sub-brands like Squiers and Epiphones like that, I try to stick with the name brands, but I can definitely see why some people go and buy an $800 Epiphone because it plays better than a lot of $1,500 Gibsons.
Well, that's true. I mean, I'm just wondering, is it because they are Gibson rejects and they just send it down the line to Epiphone? Or is Epiphone just straight up making guitars to their own specifications? Because I've played some pretty mean Epiphones in my day.
Yeah, actually I got one here in the room with me that I think plays quite well. I don't care necessarily for their baseball bat necks, but
I'm the same way with the Fender Tele.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, love the guitar, but I can't play it as well as some of the others.
You get so tired. Your hand hurts after like 3 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. On the Gibson front, I think with Epiphone, they just do a good job. I mean, to be perfectly honest, an Epiphone guitar is good enough for me. And I know there's going to be some people out there that are like, ugh, I'm not good enough to need a Gibson. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in a blindfolded test, even some of the top players, I think even Slash could be tricked. If you handed him an Epiphone, it had to be the top of the line Epiphone.
Yeah, for Slash.
Set up by his tech,
exactly.
And I think he would have to really dial in with his ear to hear that minute tone difference. Maybe it is a little bit more tinny because the pickups aren't as nice. The tone woods and the body woods. Is he going to tell?
It's kind of hard to imagine that he would be able to tell.
Somebody that's been playing these things his whole career, more or less. I question that. So, favorite guitar brand for style and playability is Fender. For genuine playability and value would be Ibanez.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, I think.
Oh, and both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ibanez's are just, they're lightning quick. Their necks are super fast. Like, the Wizard 2 neck was probably one of the greatest creations for guitars.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like my Duosonic so much, is because the neck profile is so similar to it.
Yeah.
It's thin.
It's funny how Fender kind of came around to copying Ibanez in a sense after all those years of Ibanez just straight up knocking off all of these other brands.
Exactly.
That came full circle, man. Yeah.
Moving on. Bruce, what was your first guitar?
So all of my questions in this entire video are going to be dual answers because, like you said, I'm a bassist first. I love guitars. I played guitars for years. I'm not fantastic at it by any means, but I can hold my own. I always liken myself to I'm good enough at guitar to make people that can't play guitar think that I can. Like if I'm noodling in front of somebody that plays, they're like, yeah, I guess. But for anybody else, they're like, oh, yeah, he can play. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can think that. My first guitar, 6-string, standard guitar, was actually, it's a funny story. It was an Epiphone. Years ago, in a band that I was in, we went to a Guitar Center up in Monroeville outside of Pittsburgh. And the guitarist needed some equipment, and I was pretty much the only one in the band that had any kind of credit, so I opted to get a Guitar Center card, and they were running some special. It was like, buy X amount of dollars and stuff, and you get something for free. It was like you get an Epiphone product for free or near free. It was a really, really good price, but there were select items, obviously, and I don't think it was free. It was a pretty good discount. Either way, so we get all rung up, and the guy at the counter is just like, hey, you apply for this, you can get an Epiphone product for, we'll call it half off, whatever it was at the time. And I was like, well, what's your cheapest Epiphone product? Because I don't want an Epiphone. I really had no desire back then to buy one. That was when I was only bass. And, so he pulls out like this god awful 4-string bass, electric. I think it was single pickup. Oh, I'm not 100% sure it even had a tone knob. Oh, no. It was like a 19 fret or whatever it was. It was a beginner bass that you buy because you're not sure if you're going to take up the hobby or not, and you don't want to spend a pile of money.
Entry level all the way.
All the way. Just bottom of the barrel Epiphone, and I was like, that's terrible. I don't want that. And so I asked him, I was like, what's your next cheapest Epiphone product that I can buy for this? And he hands me this 6-string acoustic. And I'm like, I've kind of always wanted a noodle-in guitar. And if I'm going to get it, it was like, I think retail was $120 or something like that. Maybe it was maybe $150 at the most. And I'm like, oh, if I can get into this thing for, $70-$75, why not? And so I grabbed it up. And that thing has been my workhorse guitar forever. It doesn't sound great. I've had to work on it. Just an acoustic, no fancy electronics or built-in tuner or anything like that. But it's kind of fun in the sense that it gave me the opportunity to have an instrument that I could just not care about. I could throw it in the back seat. I've never owned a case for it. Ever. I've never bought a case. I take the thing camping and everything, and I just drag it around with me. And if it gets bumped or knocked or something like that, I really don't care. And it's hung in there tough. It's still, for the better part, sounds fairly okay. I'm not even going to use the term decent, but fairly okay for being a super cheapo guitar. So that was my first guitar. First bass actually was one that you helped me acquire because I had no intention of ever playing music until one day you're like, hey, I play guitar, I need a bassist. And I'm like, what's a bassist? So it was when you took me to the local PV dealership and I picked up the Milestone 4 starter pack with the little, it had the amp, I think it was a 15 watt amp, which is pretty good for a starter pack. And I loved that guitar. It was the first one, or first instrument, first stringed instrument. So, I guess those are my answers. What was your first? I actually don't know the answer to this.
My first guitar was also a PV.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
like a Raptor.
My parents bought me a PV Raptor.
Nice PV Raptor.
Yeah, the thing had the world's tiniest headstock. It was weird. It was almost like a head, like the headless.
Oh yeah, the Steinhauser,
Steinhaus, I think, or something along the kind of line.
Yeah, the headless ones.
Yeah. It was along that kind of line. It was so ridiculously small. They had the body of kind of like a Strat.
Yeah, it was leaning more towards that edgy, angry Strat, kind of like the Ibanez. I think they were more trying to copy Ibanez.
I would say so.
Yeah.
That's what I had as my first. It was like a metallic purple, and I honestly miss that guitar with a passion.
Is it gone? You don't have it?
I don't know where it is. It's
just gone. You move up and then you don't care.
Exactly.
And it's not until years later that you're like, the nostalgia sets in.
If I come across one, which you can find them.
Oh my gosh.
And they're cheap.
For $12 and a half a hot dog.
Yeah, like I think I want to pick one up.
Yeah.
I can be into one for like $100 and I can turn it around and make a thing, play and sound beautifully.
Put it, file down the edge of the frets, probably file down some frets themselves, and do a good proper setup on it. Yeah, so and there's nothing wrong with PV. PV gets crapped on so much, and we have a local PV specific dealership. They sell a couple other odd stuff, primarily commercial stuff, hence the name Commercial Sound of Music. So, but PV is their primary line because of their PA systems, and they get the job done for on the guitar side. I mean, obviously they have the EVH stuff, which you have a couple of their EVHs.
Yeah,
and I still think they're fantastic instruments. I love those things. Eddie Van Halen, say what you want about him, he knows how to design a guitar.
I've always wanted to play an actual EVH.
Oh, his new brand,
like his actual brand. Aren't they made by Fender?
I don't know. I have no idea. It's possible. I think I heard that somewhere. The Fender at least owns them. I don't know
something along the kind of line. I mean, there's so many subsidiaries that no one ever realizes.
Yeah, there's like 3 companies.
Well, like all of
it's probably made by Ford or something.
Like Zakk Wylde's guitars.
Yeah.
Wild Audio. That's all done through Schecter.
Huh.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of.
Somebody's behind something everywhere. Zakk Wylde isn't going out and building his own guitars.
I swear, if there's a conglomerate going on, obviously they're not doing well because of Gibson.
Right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So beyond that, now that we've kind of got an idea of our preferences, we're going to dive into our preferences. You had me write down some top 5 guitarists. I'm going to let you go first, and I'll throw yours at mine, or mine at you, I should say, because I have a feeling yours are going to be better than mine. That's usually how it is. I always aim low. So throw some top guitarists at me.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't write a single thing down for this entire episode. I just wanted to wing it right off the top of my head, just to have more of a genuine kind of response deal.
Sure.
First and foremost, right off the top of my head, Jason Richardson.
Oh yeah.
That dude is such a technical
marvel.
Yeah. I mean, his solo album was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Now he's in All That Remains.
Yeah. Oh, poor Oli. Poor one out. That was sad, but it's cool that he joined them. It's almost a step down, though. Technically, he can play all of their music with his eyes closed and half asleep. But
it's true.
But it's cool.
It's very cool. Stepping away from metal for the next one. A blues guitarist, Joe Bonamassa.
Oh yeah, I didn't expect you to have any non-metal on your list, but that's appropriate. He's phenomenal.
He can just wail and wail. I think he's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think the neat thing about him is, for the better part, I know people can argue this, but blues is not even remotely in its heyday. I'm not saying it's over. There's tons of underground blues artists and slightly blues rock artists out there that are keeping it going quite well, and there's even some on my list. But for the better part, genuine blues, it really isn't going anywhere. There's not very many people doing it and getting their name out in it.
Right.
And he's like the only one. He's like the last blues rock star. You know, now that Clapton's not playing anymore, even though he wasn't really.
Well, he goes on guitar with like semi trucks.
Yeah.
Full of equipment. Like not just one, but like several.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a huge production.
Yeah, so he's like the last blues star. If that's a thing. If you could ever have a blues star.
Yeah. I mean, he's always going to be A-okay in my book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay.
A couple others. I have an immense amount of respect for John 5.
Okay, yeah, he's on my list.
Yeah, John 5 is ridiculous. For those of you who don't know, he started off with, I think, Katie Lang.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got real popular in his heyday, playing for Marilyn Manson for, 12 years?
And that's where he got his name.
Exactly.
You know that. Manson's the one that named him, gave him his stage name. So.
Yeah, now he's rocking it out with Rob Zombie. He actually makes me want to listen to Rob Zombie.
Right, yeah.
Like, no offense to Rob Zombie. Like, he does what he does well.
Yeah.
But his latest albums, yeah, they're not Hellbilly Deluxe.
No, they're not.
You know.
But I also don't know the name of the guitarist from Hellbilly Deluxe. I know John 5's name.
Riggs or Blasco?
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those.
And the other one's like the bass player.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
He's not with the band anymore, but
yeah, so I love John 5. I love how people still to this day get surprised because they have no idea his background. Like so many, usually the people that listen to Rob Zombie, they say they're metalheads. They might be touching the boundaries of metal, but it's not metal. But then, like, you're like, oh yeah, check him out. He can play. He can chicken pick.
Yeah. Yeah. He has one song called "Behind the Nut Love," and it's basically him just picking open strings and creating notes by bending the strings behind the nut.
And that is not easy.
No, not at all.
On the fingers. Yeah.
And he does it perfectly. The intonation is spot on.
It is so funny to see that man in like full guise, like full metal. He's got the white makeup and the black coming down from his eyes.
Yeah.
But playing like just awesome bluegrass. On a Fender Telly.
Yep. I think that's why I like him so much. He's one of the most versatile guitarists I can possibly think of.
Do you know, and I don't know if this is still current, but as of a few years ago, because he's a giant Fender fan, he started out with Ibanez, and the story, actually I got to see an interview with him. He said he was at an AM show, and going around the show, he goes up to the Ibanez booth, because he's an Ibanez spot, he is Ibanez, he's part of the group. And hanging out at his booth. Of course, Steve Vai's there and everything. Everybody's kind of oohing and ahhing over him. And he said the entire time he was in the booth for his allotted time that he had to be there, he was ignored by Ibanez. Nobody really talked to him. A couple of the other artists were talking to him, but nobody within the company. And he said finally he was allowed to step away from his booth, and he's walking by the Fender booth, and they're all yelling at him to come over and talk to him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so he goes over and talks to him, and then, like, surely, it doesn't take him very long. Now he's a Fender artist. He drops Ibanez. And
I still love his signature guitar.
Oh, me too. That's one of my favorites. Like him and Jim Root, which both have very similar Telecasters. I love both of their guitars. But neat little thing, because I never actually got to the point of my story. Sorry, long-winded.
All right.
As of a few years ago, John 5 had one of every model year of Telecaster ever.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they started making those in like the 50s? I feel like it was the 50s.
They didn't even call it the Telecaster back then, I don't think.
I can't remember. I'd have to look up the history.
That's
it was just like the Fender guitar. Yeah. It was just like, hey, we have an electric guitar. Yeah, so he has one of every model year up until... I'm sure he has current ones. Fender probably was like, hey, it's 2019, here's 6.
If you're a signature artist, I think you're pretty much set.
Yeah. I love how he packs three humbuckers in a Telecaster and things like that. Just that's wrong to the instrument, but good for him.
Right. He can get away with it and make it sound good.
Oh, more power to him. Yeah, love him. So yeah, he was on my list. I won't mention him. I'm glad I had more than 5 on my list. Who else you got?
Kind of rounding up, I guess, the top 5. One that was really, how would I describe it? Like influential to me. Okay. Zakk Wylde.
Yes.
I think that he got me to the point that I am.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
That's the most important part. Like, how do you take up after Randy Rhoads?
Oh, I know. I mean, those are some shoes.
That's the biggest shoes you can fill.
And you might argue with this with me, but I feel on a technical level, Rhodes' guitar playing was more difficult or slightly more technical. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it was also, there was less, I don't want to say soul in it. The guy's not alive anymore. I don't want to be disrespectful for him, but I feel like Wild really brought feeling to the playing. And I actually prefer the Wild Aussie riffs. I mean, there's some iconic Rhodes stuff out there, but I prefer the Wild style of the Aussie stuff.
I do too. I just wish that he would stop with the wah pedal. He's gotten ridiculous with that wah pedal.
Wah pedal and pitch harmonics. Those are like his.
I'm good with the pinch harmonics. That's Zakk Wylde all the way.
Oh yeah.
But him just running like 3 boost pedals in front of a distorted amp with it hurts my ears.
Yeah, I mean he can be. If he weren't so good, I could easily make fun of him for some of this. Like his vocal style, when he's singing in Black Label and everything like that. I mean, you said this to me years ago, and I still hold true, and I've told other people since then. You can tell he was Ozzy's backup vocalist for decades because like Black Label Society is like it's like redneck Ozzy. I don't know how else to put it.
I like that. I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. So there are aspects of him that are a bit silly, but when you really think about it, you've got to respect the guy. And I've heard that he's a really cool person.
Oh, I would love to meet him.
Yeah, I've never.
That would be so cool.
I've heard that he's really just a nice guy. He's like the opposite of Mike Portnoy as far as being a decent person.
I want to imagine Portnoy as being a good person. I want to imagine it like dude's got nothing else going for him.
Yeah.
And then very last guitarist I got on my list. They developed my style.
Okay.
Nick Hippa from As I Lay Dying.
Yeah.
It's so unique the way that they do that drop tuning, and like their riffs are just, oh my god! Like I don't even know how to describe them. Mm-hmm. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, his style of writing just speaks to me. Mm-hmm. Like everything he does, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's so neat. And it never feels like he's out to impress. He's never like, how many notes can I pack into this?
It's always, what does the song need?
Yeah, he's very appropriate, right?
And he can just wail like the best of them. Mm-hmm. He's
good. Yeah,
he's very good.
So the fact that they're back together is pretty cool. I never really got into the what was the other band? Woven War?
Woven War, yeah.
Yeah, I never really got into
Well,
that.
they had this whole thing where they were saying that the band itself was not going to be As I Lay Dying, that they're their own thing, which is cool if you didn't have 95% of the band from As I Lay Dying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's happened before. Audioslave is not Rage Against the Machine. I was like, yeah, it isn't, but it's because it was a completely different style. This is like baby As I Lay Dying. Like it was like As I Lay Dying light.
Yeah, I would say they're the Natty Light of As I Lay Dying.
Yeah, just as watery.
They said that they forgave him and all that fun stuff with Tim Lambesis trying to kill his wife, that whole 9 yards, but. Honestly, I'm thinking it was more or less for a paycheck.
And they're getting one. Well, I say they're getting one, but they've had some shows that have been canceled on this tour.
Well, they're the protests. They're the ones that are actually canceling.
Right? Yeah, and they get enough protests. And they say, okay, we're going to back out. And they had to step off of a couple parts of the.
I think one was St. Louis, wasn't it? Missouri.
That sounds right. Yeah, I can't remember.
So. I really wanted to see him in Baltimore, but the show's already sold out.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
And if they're packing it, just like whenever me and you saw them on the Decus tour.
Yeah, in Baltimore, right? Was it Ram's Head? I can't remember where we were.
It was...
No, it wasn't Ram's Head. I can't remember what the venue was.
I can't remember either, to tell you the truth.
Well, either way, to this day, the best live performance I've ever seen.
Same.
Like, 100% tight and clean. It was one of those where it sounded like the album, but it wasn't. Like you want that, you don't want Dragon Force. Right. You want them to be able to play the music, but you also don't want to feel like somebody just hit play on the album, and they accomplished both. They put on the tightest set ever. Everything sounded perfect, but also live, and the energy that was there. that show was amazing. I mean, Silosis opened for them, which, to be fair, is a technically higher level band.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they can play circles around them, and I forgot about Silosis as soon as they hit the stage.
Iwabo was on that.
Oh yeah, Iwabo, yeah, that's right.
The second that they hit that first open C, I forgot everything that happened.
Oh my gosh, the energy out of that band. So yeah, and now obviously Nick Hepa. In my opinion, he's just as important as Tim Lambesis. I don't think you can have that band without both of them. I think it's a mutual collaboration.
Exactly. That's who I had to go with. Who's on your list?
Yeah. So just as I expected, my list has, in my opinion, less technically proficient musicians, but ultimately still guys that I have a great deal of respect for. I'm going to start at none of these are in order, but I'm going to just kind of start with where I was writing, because as soon as I saw top 5 guitarists, the very first one that came to mind was Jack White.
Yeah.
He's not good. I think that's what I love about him, is that he doesn't go out of his way to necessarily be, Vi or Petrucci or any of those guys.
Oh, he's so sloppy.
Yeah, he really is.
So good.
And it's like just dirty. It's just dirty good. And I love him for that. I love the fact that with the White Stripes, I don't know if he ever played a guitar worth more than about $80. I mean, he would pick up these craptastic, Sears and Roebuck specials, just absolute junk with the lipstick pickups and all that stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
he'll just make him sing.
Crap. Yeah, I mean, these guitars were all but made out of plywood and or OSB. And yeah, he would rock the crap out of them. And they played terrible, and he played terrible, but for some odd reason it was amazing. So not a great guitarist, but a great guitarist. Moving on from him, this is one I hesitated putting on the list because it makes me just a giant softie. But another Jack Johnson.
Oh.
Yeah, he's just good. He's just good, and he makes me feel good. His little Hawaiian style of acoustic guitar playing, and he's actually really good. Like if you listen to what he does, his songs aren't ezy to perform. I don't know that I've ever learned a complete song of his, because at some point he would do something that I'm like, that's kind of hard, and I would move on. And one cool thing about him, for anybody that is not familiar with Jack Johnson, before he got into music, he was a world-class surfer. Had medals, surfed around the world. I don't know if he was Olympic. I don't know if that's an Olympic thing, but he was definitely like at that top-tiered level, like an Olympic level of surfer. And then one day he decided to stop doing that and just be amazing at music. And it kind of makes me mad a little, because it's like, can you throw some talent my way? I would appreciate it.
I like the fact that he's doing what he loves.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter if it's surfing, doesn't matter if he's playing music. He's doing what he loves.
Yeah, that dude has had an awesome life, and I hear he's pretty cool too. Also on the list, I'm going to skip John 5 because there's no real reason to say that again, but he's definitely on there. John Frusciante.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm a huge Chili Peppers fan. I'm a big Chili Peppers fan. Obviously, I love Flea, and Flea could be on this list as well.
Oh, easily.
He's one of my idols. But John Frusciante, the big thing about him is, throughout the Chili Peppers career, I really call it the Frusciante Peppers is what I prefer, because it's only the albums he's on that I really care for. The Dave Navarro stuff was all right, and the new guy, don't know your name, I'm sorry. Good for him. He's really good. I mean, he was their backup guitarist when Frusciante was in the band to play all the Stadium Arcadium stuff. That John had like 3 guitars, overlaid on the songs, and this guy was tearing it up in the background in the shadows of the stage.
Yeah.
And then he had to step up and play everything that John Frusciante could play, and that is not easy. So, amazing guitarist. The soul isn't there. His style's a little not where I want it to be, but I love Frusciante. His solo stuff is really cool. It's kind of weird. I don't know if you ever had a chance to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
But love him. Another Fender player. And that's funny. Yeah, so was John 5. So love Frusciante. But being that it's me and I have to have 2 answers to every question on here, I had to throw some bass players on there. Obviously, I mentioned Flea. But 2 other musicians, top 5 bass players, bass guitarists. Some people don't like that term, bass guitarist. They want to call bassists, whatever.
Tomato.
Yeah. Les Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. just weird fisherman.
What a weird dude. Such a strange dude.
But the crap he does is intensely weird and very extremely difficult. I don't know how you can sing. I don't know what you call what he does. While playing the bass so well, like Tommy the Cat. To play that song is like an Olympic event on of your brain, to sing and perform, and then he's stomping around the stage. And then last on my list is Ryan Martini, obviously of Mudvayne fame, but he's got some newer stuff out. He's in a jazz fusion band called Soften the Glare.
Soften the Glare rules.
Yeah, got a chance to meet him. Definitely one of my idols. I would say he was genuinely... when it all got started and back in the day, and you were like, "Hey, you need to play bass." I guess the first one would be Fieldy, from Korn, because I was a huge fan of Korn back then.
You got to start out with Korn.
Yeah, so I loved Fieldy, but then when I discovered Mudvayne and the things that he could do with a bass, the fact that those songs were not guitar driven. I mean, that's what everybody else hears, but that's not where the melody came from. The fact that he was able to do that just blew my mind. And when I met him last year, super cool guy. Oh, so humble, so humble. It was really, really cool. We got to the event a little early. It's a little tiny venue because it's a jazz fusion band, and like 70% of the people in there are just Mudvayne fans. I got there early and walked in, and he walks by, and I froze up because I'm my idol. And I got to talk to him for 10 minutes before he went on stage. I'm like, that's so cool. I got to talk to Ryan Martini. And then they get done, and we go up, and I get his autograph and everything like that. And then he stood there and talked to me. He just kind of chit-chatted with me for a half hour. A handful of us, but he was very inclusive. If anybody was standing there, he was talking to everybody. He was so nice and humble, and he didn't really want to talk about himself. He just kind of kept... He wouldn't change the subject, but he would bring it around to you. And it was so cool. And then later on at the end of the night, they're all loading up. We're waiting on everybody to get ready to leave, and I'm hanging out outside of the venue. Dude pops out the side door, glances at me, and starts to walk towards the van, and then stops and comes back and chit-chats with me for another 45 minutes.
That's so cool.
I legit hung out with the guy for a solid hour and a half combined time. Ryan Martini is hands down my favorite stringed instrumentalist, obviously, not a guitarist, but just because he's amazing. He's so proficient at the instrument, and he's such a good person.
Well, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, it was good times. So, moving on from that, because I talked forever about that. Sorry, everybody. I guess that's what we're here for.
That's what we do.
Yeah. The next question is really important for me because I am headstrong in my answer, so I'm going to ask you yours first. Who's the most overrated popular guitarist for you?
Sinister Gates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Absolutely. I didn't expect that. There were some names that I thought you would throw down, but I never expected that.
Yeah, I am not an Avenged Sevenfold fan. Yeah. Not by any means.
I've never been able to get into them. I can use them as background noise for some of their stuff. I think my big issue with them is their initial stuff I like Backcountry. Mm-hmm. I liked that track, and the album that it was on was also good, but that particular track stuck out to me. But later on, I felt like they were just trying to be like Metallica too. That's the whole theory I have behind it. They do this thing where they do a medley together. Mm-hmm. They're playing off of each other, mm-hmm. and it's always the 20th and 21st frets on the high strings. Yeah. And their drummer is barely hitting the bass pedal, and it's just nothing but a ride cymbal. Uh-huh. And there's no meat behind it. There's no girth, there's no raw. Yeah. Because it's supposed to be metal. Yeah. And there's supposed to be an intensity. It makes me angry. I think him as a guitarist, he's phenomenal. You take and put him in another band. Yeah. Don't let him write. Yeah. He Here, play this. he could play pretty much anything you want him to. Yeah. But no. Okay. How about you? Well, mine is a far more popular or unpopular opinion, and I have an issue with this because he's been listed in lists forever since the 90s, and I just can't handle it. It's Kurt Cobain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now my issue with Kurt Cobain isn't necessarily Kurt Cobain. He wasn't a bad guitarist. I mean, the fact that he could even just play left-handed and everything like that's kind of neat. He wasn't a bad guitarist. I don't think that he's much worse than Jack White, honestly. My issue is everybody after his death kind of propping him up and putting him on this pedestal. He's topping list after list after list of greatest guitarists of all time. Mm-hmm. And it's making me so mad because it'll be like 4 down from him will be Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not right.
They're treating the greatest guitarist as a popularity contest.
Exactly, and that is 100% my standpoint. If the list, or if if you were voting on the most influential guitarists, he absolutely, I don't know if he'd be number 1, but he absolutely deserves to be in top 5 because how many kids were buying Jagstangs or Jaguars or whatever, back in the early to mid 90s, and even so on. I mean, there's still to this day. I've got a cousin in Florida. He's in his early 20s, and that's an influence for him. He wasn't even alive whenever Cobain, was alive. They were,
right.
Their lives never overlapped.
And their songs were pretty much the first songs that every guitarist learned how to play.
Oh yeah,
like "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Teen Spirit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like everyone started to play that one.
Yeah.
I learned that one.
Yeah, so he absolutely was influential, 100% influential. He is the reason so many people bought Strats. Mm-hmm. Great guitarist? No, he's not. He's not that good. As far as professional guitarists would go, him in his prime, obviously alive. Not that great. I mean, I can go to local bars in the area and find guitarists that are better than he ever was.
Oh, absolutely.
Now from that standpoint, I actually appreciate his writing abilities. There's that whole idea behind him, that whole, he's just a tortured soul, I guess you could say. I'm not saying I don't like Kurt Cobain. He's just overrated. You're overrated guitar. You hate him. You don't like him. Mine, I appreciate him, but he's not great. He's barely good.
Yeah. I still like that.
You can tell I've said that rant before, like drunk at a party years ago, probably standing next to a bonfire annoying somebody.
All right, moving on. The last question about guitar itself. What is your dream guitar?
We had to delay the making of this video because it took me forever to find the thing. It's kind of sad that my dream guitar, I couldn't think of the name of it. But of my 2 answers, the first one that came to mind, I pictured it immediately in my head. I just forgot the name of it. Is the Warwick Infinity bass. Just a fantastic bass. I love the F-holes on it. These things I don't know if they still even make them. I think they started at like $5,000 and went up to like $8,000. Just amazing German pieces. One of these days I do hope to own a German Warwick. I doubt it'll ever be that one.
Right.
So I love that one. But then on the guitar specific side of that, I don't have one. I just have a preferred style, and that's the Telecaster. And various ripoffs, and I'm going to call them ripoffs. Schecter has their PT line, love their stuff. I've seen so many variations of the Telecaster from different brands, and I love that single cutaway without being the big, full-bodied,
right? And
not necessarily like a Les Paul's pretty big, but like the ES335 and things like that, or these giant. Oh shoot! What's the brand names they're just massive? Stuff like Brian Seltzer would play.
Gretsch.
Yes, thank you, Gretsch. Yeah, which I like Gretsch's, but they're just massive. And I'm a big guy, but I don't want to carry around like what feels like a stand-up bass that I lay over in my lap.
Oh, absolutely.
So my preferred or my favorite guitar is just any Telecaster. I am lucky enough to own a Fender. It's a bass Fender, I should say. I got the HH, which I kind of needed for the humbuckers because it more suited my style. I actually can't say that my style works well with single coils, but yeah, that's my answer. What about you? Where are you at on your favorite guitar, dream guitar?
I have 2. Number 1, for versatility, I want to get myself a Fender American-made Elite Strat.
Oh, okay.
Just something that you can actually get them on Fender.com as a build it yourself kind of deal. The one I want is going to have all all white pickguard. The pickups are going to be white. I want it in seafoam green.
Oh, okay. So not far from your Duo.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as the color
I
goes.
want a maple neck.
Okay.
I love maple necks. I think they're just so nice.
Yeah, looks wise, 100%.
Yes.
Anytime somebody ever asks me, like, what's your preferred neck? I'm like, I want the pretty ones. I can't tell you the difference between a rosewood and a maple neck in playing. I know that the one's a little softer and warmer and one's a little sharper, but the maple necks are pretty.
Yeah, they most certainly are. And the other one, just for the style of music that I want to end up playing, I want to get a Gretsch Synchromatic.
Oh, okay.
I think that they're so gorgeous.
Yeah.
They have a wooden bridge. They're
oh, okay. Yeah, I was with you
guitars.
one time at the Fender shop, and you were drilling on one. Okay.
And they do have a little pickup that's actually mounted onto the pickguard itself.
Okay.
Well, it mounts kind of like on the side of the neck.
Oh.
There's a screw that goes into it that holds it in place right underneath the fretboard.
Huh.
Like right at the very end. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And then they run the wire in through, I think it's the sound hole, and work its way back because it's a hollow body guitar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think that they're so classy. They just look so nice.
That's pretty cool. I didn't expect... I mean, I'm not that surprised, but I really expected something more metal out of you. I thought you would say a gem, honestly.
I mean, gems are nice. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love gems, but there's just... I have such a hard time trying to justify that kind of money.
Well, I mean...
I know it's a dream guitar,
yeah.
but I also want it to be something that I could one day make a reality.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah, like the Elite Strat, I could probably get for under $2,000.
Yeah. Where do gems start? They're like 4 or 5 and up? I don't know where they are.
For an actual one, they're over 2.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Gretsch Synchromatic, you can pick one up brand new for $850.
No kidding. Yeah, you're so me in your pick.
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to be so I don't know, logical.
But I love metal to death. It's my go-to for pretty much every single occasion. Mm-hmm. However, I don't want to play metal.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I did the whole play metal thing. I just don't want to do it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I want to,
but not. I want to clarify, not for sellout reasons.
No.
A lot of people, they dive out of metal because they can't make any money. We've never made money playing music.
God,
we're not going to
ever.
Yeah, it's
broke.
a stylistic choice, not because you're wanting to go out and play Nickelback covers to drunk people in bars.
Well, me and you have 2 different bands that we do. Where there's one where it's literally just me and you.
Yeah.
And
that's
then,
fun.
Yeah, and then we have the one with our vocalist Amanda. If you're listening to this, hi. We just play a completely different style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like some of the people that knew me, especially my background in metal, because that's primarily, I'm a metal musician first. Now I'm not, but that's definitely my strongest suit. And I would let some of my friends listen to some of those early recordings of our projects. And they're like, what? I have no idea. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, oh, well, I'm actually playing the drums in this. And they're like, but I like this. I'm like, I know. Isn't that cool?
All right. Well, moving off of dream guitars, let's get more into the musical side of things.
Okay.
What is your thought about musical equipment stores versus online music stores? Like a guitar shop that you can walk you down the street versus like musiciansfriend.com.
Yeah. I'm torn. I'm a small business fan first and foremost. Those mom and pop shops out there that are, getting by selling the guitars and everything like that. Bless your hearts. You're amazing. You're awesome. Do your thing. And I will support you to the best of my ability. When I'm initially looking into an instrument, I go online. I do all of my looking online. I just get all the specs, get all the reviews, check out what colors are available, obviously, and things like that. And I really form like it always starts with, oh, that's a neat thing that person has. What are they playing? And then it goes from there. And I do that 100% online for the ease of it. Click, 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 click,
Yeah,
click.
it's so easy
that's what
just
it is.
just to look at pictures online.
But dang it, I want to play the instrument. So what I do is usually I figure out what I want, and then I figure out where I can buy it from, and I go and in our area we're a bit limited with brands and things like that. Obviously we have a PV dealer local, we have a Fender dealer local, which is great because we both love Fender.
Yeah.
But if I find an Ibanez that I really like, I have no option to buy that local, and I'm not going to drive 2 cities over. I'm not going to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to buy from an Ibanez dealer. Even if it is a mom and pop shop, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't buy local if it's not local. So then I will purchase online. So I'm back and forth. I try to definitely support your local music shop. Anybody out there that's playing music, buy your strings local, buy your picks, even if it's not the instrument itself. And you should try to buy that local. Most of your local shops these days kind of get the idea of, hey, I can't charge you more than what's online, and good brands like Fender, they set their prices. They have to. Everybody has to sell for the same price. A $500 Strat is a $500 Strat. Obviously, you'll have that penalty of paying sales tax in your local town, but I don't know. You're supporting a guy and his family, or a lady and her family, what have you. As opposed to just sending cash to a CEO of a company. So I'm back and forth, but I prefer, if I can, to make the final purchase local, especially if I have the ability to play the instrument in person. I know years ago when I bought my Fender, actually I was up in the air between the Fender, and that was when Gibson had just re-released the Les Paul Jr., the LPJ, and they finally put 2 pickups in it, which I think there were models before that had it, but like the main one didn't. And it was a dual humbucker. It was just it was a decent Les Paul, I thought. And then I got to play one, and it wasn't local. It was at the Guitar Center up near Pittsburgh from us. And I hated it. I hated so much about it. And I was dreaming about this thing. I just couldn't play it. I couldn't. And that's when I started realizing I'm not a Gibson guy.
Right.
And so then I kind of went back to Telecaster, and I was able to pick one up in Nashville, of all places. That's where I got mine. So I guess my final answer is I prefer local, except you can't look at 800 different guitars at your local guitar shop.
Same. I'm the exact same way. I like to do all of my shopping online, but when it comes to the actual purchasing, I like to go and physically play the guitar. To me, it's worth paying the extra little bit of money to actually talk to the owner of a small mom pop store. Yeah. To get their input, what they feel on it, because they're not just selling something just to sell something. Yeah. The reason they became a dealer is because they believe in that product.
Right. Yeah, that's the big thing, is they're not going to sell you something to get your money if they know you're going to come back mad about it.
Exactly.
Or at least they're probably not going to. Hopefully.
For the most part. Like, we don't have to worry about that here. Like, commercial sound is wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely, here's a shout out, Western Maryland Music Center. I think that it's an incredible store.
Yeah, they really believe in their and they're investing, they're self-investing, they're constantly growing, adding new lines. Great little shop.
They're always putting videos on Facebook and whatnot. It's so much fun just to see what they're offering.
You're kind of rooting on your local team, but it's your local music store.
Exactly. And they keep continually adding more and more to it, and I think that's wonderful. And I want to support that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Now, as far as that equipment goes, now that we know where we're going to buy them from, where do you stand on the non-guitar side of equipment? Like, what's your favorite amp? What do you think is the best amplifier?
Best amplifier, in my opinion, Vox AC30.
So we have no real reason to discuss this because that was mine as well. So you want to just move on? Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But yeah, why do you think that?
It's the most clean sounding amp I have ever witnessed. Yeah. Everything on it is just superb. Like, the wiring is absolutely immaculate, especially if you get like one of the hand wired ones.
Oh yeah, real AC.
I can never afford one.
Yeah, I can't afford an AC15, and I want an AC30.
But you can play anything with that amp. If you want it to sound like anything, you can get the right pedals to make it sound
right. Like that. With pedals, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. But for a straight clean channel, you're never going to beat it. It's the most pure sound you've ever heard.
It's weird. They have like a warmth and a twang. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, clean. Just what you said. It is definitely very clean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's where that twang
Yeah.
really comes into play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was on mine. Now, mine, there's an asterisk with mine. It's not on my paper. I should have put it there, but there is an asterisk. My favorite amp is absolutely the AC30 for the same reasons as you. But the question was not necessarily favorite amp, but best amp, and I don't think there's an answer for that because it depends on the player.
Right. Everyone does different things.
But there are some amps that I know aren't the best amps, and that's any full stack. I don't care who you are. You don't need 8 12-inch speakers.
Nope.
Not at all. There are so many musicians today that are running very, very small amps. You'll see a couple 15 to 30, maybe 40 at the very most watt tube amps on their stage and a handful of pedals, and they're getting the job done, and they're running through the house. The PA takes care of the volume side of things. You don't need full stacks. You really kind of don't need half stacks, honestly.
No, you don't.
If you're playing a place where you need a half stack, they need a good PA system and a good guy to run it. It's on the sound guy, lady.
Like
whatever.
any middle-aged dude, you walk in and you see a full stack or a half stack, you just automatically know they have more money than talent.
Yeah, that's it. Or there's definitely some snobs out there as well. I remember years ago I was having a discussion with some guys, and we were talking about different amps, and the dude was he was very old school. He was older, and he was very old school. And he brought up some legitimate points that to this day I agree with in some instances and not in others. But the thing that kind of got me arguing with him is that I mentioned you, because I mentioned a couple of my friends had crate amps. And the guy he goes on this rate, just going crazy. He's just... crate amps are junk. I mean, he's just downing them and everything like that. And I let him continue. I waited.
Right.
I was like, yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you think. He's, they're crap. They're not built well. They're junk. They're made out of, crap wood and everything like that. And he gets done with that. I was like, well, both of the guys that I'm referring to both have Blue Voodoos. And he goes, oh, well, those are pretty good amps, actually. And I was like, well, okay. Not sure why you had to go on that giant tyrant of Downing crate. Do I like all their products? Not really, but
Well, I don't even think they exist anymore.
yeah, they're still out there pushing something, but
I don't think it's amps. It's probably like a
I
high
don't
interest.
know. They're not
credit
doing
card or
well.
something.
Yeah, but for the best amp, it really depends on what you do. I think versatility is really nice. That's why we like the AC30. But and this is kind of getting into the next section of questions. There's some modeling amps out there that are getting really good. We'll touch on them in a moment. But the best amp is the one that I think the best way to put it is it's the one that gives you the sound that you, the guitarist, wants with the least amount of wattage.
Yeah,
That's it.
Absolutely.
Nobody needs a Crankenstein. Nobody needs a Crankenstein.
Nope. I forgot that crank amps actually exist.
Yeah, 500 watts. I don't know if they still make those or if they're still around. I mean, there's tons of boutique amps out there.
Oh,
that,
There's hundreds of thousands of them.
Yeah, there's some really great stuff out there, and even some like amps that kind of started off almost boutique, but now they're mainstream. Like Orange Amps makes great stuff.
I
Orange.
love Orange.
Love
amps.
the simplicity of them. The treble knob has a treble clef.
I still want to get one of those little tiny orange heads. Like I can't remember what
like
they're
the
called.
Tiny Terror or something like that.
Something like that. They even have like a metal version that's black. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I want, and they're cheap.
Yeah,
They're cheap. They're under $200. I think. They're like $150.
Right. Yeah.
You can't beat that.
So that's my stance on that. As far as your preferred amp brand, are there any particular brands that you prefer?
I like Fender.
Oh, okay.
I really do.
Yeah. They're very versatile.
Yeah, we're sitting right next to my amp. It's a Champion 100.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds perfect. I can dial in pretty much any gain that I need to. I mean, obviously not overboard.
Yeah.
The clean channel on it is smooth and buttery. You know, it has amazing reverb to it. It does what I want it to do. And to top it off, it didn't break the bank. Because I was going between something like this or a orange 212 combo.
That's right, yeah.
And
it was like double the price.
It was like $800 for that orange. I picked this thing up for I think $350.
Right.
It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it does a great job. For me, on favorite amp brands, it's hard for me on the guitar side to answer that. I don't know that I can give you an answer on that. But on the bass side, and I'm going to just make some people mad, except for the people that are obviously fans of this, it's not an Ampeg. PV. And I know I got a hometown PV. I started with PV. I'm kind of in that anyways, and I'm probably biased. But I've had fantastic luck with PV over the years. They make workhorse amps, in my opinion.
They can take a licking and keep on ticking.
Oh yeah. You know what? Years ago, I still have it. Yeah, it's behind me. Had a look. A TNT 115, and it's the original TNT. For all of you out there that see the new ones with like the little slant on the back, they're cool and all, and they have the neodymium speakers, so they weigh like nothing compared to mine. I have the old one that has the handle in the middle, and it shouldn't because it sucks carrying it with the handle in the middle, and it's beating on your shins. It weighs like 9,000 pounds. I have their true original TNT 115. I will not sell it. It's not worth anything, but everybody loves them. I had that thing in the back of my old band van, and it was after a show where we had unloaded all of the equipment but mine. I think I was going to go to a jam session later on, so I just left the amp sitting there in the van, and I had to go for a drive somewhere, and I forgot it was behind. It was directly behind my my driver's seat, kind of back at the rear of the van, and an old Chevy Astro that I had, no interior whatsoever. It was all metal. Everything was metal inside of the thing, and cruising along. And I go around this sharp turn, and I was going too fast. I was in a hurry or something like that. And, dude, I thought that the van exploded because I go around this turn, and this amp, it was sitting straight. It was on its bottom, sitting straight up, and that thing flopped face down, smack dab in the middle of the van floor with this horrendous boom. Then continued to flip up onto its top so that it was upside down and slammed against the side of the van, and then came back down, speaker down, and slammed into the floor again. I literally thought I was in a wreck. I'm like, where is the semi-truck at that is hitting me? Because I didn't see it. Yeah. It was just boom, boom, boom. I'm like, that's it. It's done. Like, I destroyed that thing. I hope the speaker's okay because the electronics are probably shook apart. And got the thing home. Put all the knobs back to more or less where I had them, plugged them in, and it has never failed me. It has worked ever since flawlessly.
I'm telling you, man, solid state's the way to go.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, I mean, obviously the tone isn't there, and we'll get more into that. But the PV bass amps have never let me down. I've owned tons of them over the years. Anything from rack mount heads to a tiny little. I got, what is it, a 110? I think it's a 110 little maxi amp that they don't make anymore. That was great. I love that amp so much. I paid almost what it was worth to ship it back from Alaska when I moved back. I don't know why. Yeah, it was like an $80 amp, and I paid like $55 to ship it back. I should have sold the sucker and came back and got something different, but I loved it. So that's my favorite brand on that. Now we were touching on this, and you mentioned solid state and things of that nature and modeling amps. What's your opinion on them? Let's dive into that world.
I like modeling amps as long as they're not cheap modeling amps.
Yeah,
like. Don't get me wrong. I like Line 6, but I hate Line 6.
Even the people that play Line 6 don't like Line 6.
Yeah, it's one of those where they try to sound like it, but you can obviously tell there's a microprocessor doing its thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There are some really good options that you can get that sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
AXFX, that's very, very popular. I'm pretty sure that Misha from Periphery pretty much uses that thing exclusively.
Oh, okay.
And he gets some of the gnarliest tones.
Yeah, it is great, especially with that extended string instrument and everything.
Yeah,
does he play 7 string? I think 7 or 8.
I think he does mostly 7, but I think they dive into 8s and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just depends on what song and what kind of music they're into that point in time. But you can get any sound that you want to out of it, and it doesn't sound like hot garbage. Problem is, you're going to be spending a few dollars. I'm never going to have that kind of money.
No.
That's why I'm going to stick with my Champion 100, and we're going to have a good time with that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I own Line 6. And I agree with you that they're not that great. Unless you're a beginner. I think they're great for the entry-level kids. I love the idea of these inexpensive modeling amps for I say kids, but it could be any beginner that doesn't know what their tone is going to be.
Right.
You know, nobody ever starts out and immediately plays the exact style that you kind of end up with. Mm-hmm. You know, I think you even noodled in Chili Peppers back in the day. You haven't played them in there forever.
No.
But you tried in the beginning and you needed an amp that sounded like that. And I think that's important for our beginners and people to dive into it and be able to pay a couple $100 for one amp that can do it all, not well, but 70%. It's okay. It gets the job done, and I like that about Line 6 is that the tone is just not good.
That's god awful.
But it is very versatile, and I think if you think of it more as a tool than an amp,
right?
It's a great tool. They do a great job with it. But beyond that, I'm kind of with you.
Sorry, I'm dropping things. Yeah, sorry guys, that was my fault there, and we'll just put that there, pretend like that didn't happen. Sorry about that.
Anyways, crap. What was I saying? I going back to that one guy that was giving me crap about Crate all those years ago. The thing that he said was, all you really need is one knob. You one input. You don't need one channel, I guess is the phrase that he used. You only ever need one channel. You should be able to dial in your tone and use your volume knob on your guitar to decide how crunchy it is or how much gain you're dialing into this. And I have an immense appreciation for that setup while knowing that it is extremely limited. It sounds great at 3 sounds. Mm-hmm. Mild gain, mid gain, heavy gain.
Right.
That's all you get. You can fart with your tone knob and dial it in a little bit more, but ultimately it's very, very specific. And I think if your guitar playing allows for that, then it's great. If you can get that set up and that's what you need and you don't need any other stuff, then great, good on you. There are some great stomp boxes out there these days. And I don't get into the effects a whole lot myself, but I mean, I know we were crapping on him before we started playing, but The Edge, he has an arsenal of sounds, and you can say what you want about the man, but you have to really, if you kind of go through the discography, realize that he has a very versatile sound range. Every song, he really dials in and has a signature tone per song. And you can't do that with just one channel and a volume knob.
Yeah.
So I like modeling amps in the end. And there are some out there, the hybrids that use modeling and tube preamps that do a really good job. Mm-hmm. They kind of, they're halfway in the middle. They still don't sound maybe as great as just pure tube stuff, but the little bit of tone that you're sacrificing more than makes up for the fact that, you can do anything with it. So it's coming a long way, and it's only going to get better. And I think the modeling amps that we're on today will probably replace a lot of tube stuff later on, other than those guys that are diehard getting their 5 waters. I don't see... I guess the 6505, the 5150, will always be around, but will it?
It's hard to tell if it will be or not.
Yeah, so...
It really is.
Yeah, I like them. I don't know. What are your thoughts on, and they have computer amps. I mean, have you ever messed with those? I haven't.
I have never messed with them, so I don't really have, any ridiculous preference or anything along that kind of line. I know that there are a lot of people that, that do love them, and they can download pretty much any sound that they want to just at the click of a button, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. But
I don't have enough experience to really have a legitimate opinion.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. We're at a good spot right here. I want to add one more thing that wasn't on the list, and I think this is a good spot to go out on. And I've had this discussion before in the past. I don't know if I've ever had it with you, and I think it's a good discussion for musicians to have. And I think it's something that people need to think about on their own. They don't necessarily need to discuss it with everybody. They really need to figure out where they are on theirs. Where does the quality or value, I should say, where does the value top out in instrument prices? And we can talk guitars, we can talk amps and things like that. At what point are you just spending money for nothing?
Depends on the guitar. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about a mass-produced guitar, mm-hmm. I would say that you're going to top out $1,000.
Okay.
that's going to be about it. Now, if you get into a boutique guitar,
hand built,
something
Jason and Grody,
like I wouldn't bat an eye at $2,000. I think anything more than that, I would be too afraid to actually play it.
Yeah.
It's just knowing that you're holding it's a lot of money in your hands.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to take
one strap away from you
don't want to take that thing out gigging and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
It would live in a house inside of a case.
Yep.
And I feel bad for it. It needs to be freed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. $1,000 was definitely in my mind for the same reasons as you. Mass produced, which is a good point. I didn't think about this. Anything over $1,000, I don't think you'll gain anything as far as what the instrument's for, as far as playability and sound.
Right.
You can upgrade, but after a while, you're just kind of getting rose gold bits. Mm-hmm. You're buying niceties.
Congratulations on your beautiful tone wood that you're plugging into a distorted amplifier.
Right, yeah.
It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like paying more than $1,000, now it's because you want to. It's not because you need to. There's not a single mass-produced $2,000-$3,000 guitar out there that plays, in my opinion, as well as a properly set up, because I cannot emphasize that enough, $1,000 guitar. Obviously, buying a hand-built American guitar, you're gonna pay an American to build that for you.
Yeah.
And it's worth it in some instances. Some of them are just gimmicky and things of that nature. But to get a proper luthier to build you an instrument, especially if they can do it to your specifications, they're not just building a generic model,
right,
but they're building your guitar. I think $2,000. I think I agree with that. I think $2,000. Anything above that, now you're just making it shiny.
Mm-hmm. Now, if anyone wants to challenge us on that, we're open to endorsements.
Yeah. Send me your $5,000 guitar, and I'll tell you if it's worthwhile.
You send me a $5,000 guitar, and I will give you the best review you've ever seen. It'll be lengthy. It'll have words in it.
There'll be nice words.
There'll be nice ones. Things like good and fun.
But you remember, what were we? We were at a Guitar Center in Monroeville. Again, I'm sensing a trend here. I got to play that Rickenbacker.
Yeah.
It was like a 3001. I can't remember which model it was, but I got to play that Rickenbacker, and it was the first time I finally ever got to play a doggone Rick. And I've always kind of thought they were cool, They had the Beatles thing. There's other players that played them, and they have their own style. They have the ashtray on them and everything like that. And that was a couple $1,000, like an $1,800 bass or something like that. So it was an appropriately priced Rick, and I didn't care for it. I couldn't play it. Like, I was like not making fun of it, but I was complaining while I was playing it in the store. I mean, I wouldn't do that if somebody's standing there wanting to buy it,
right.
But I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't like this, I don't like that, and like in the end of the day, I can pick up my $300 Ibanez 4-string and SR and just kind of get the same job done, and I can play it better. I can play it better. So
it's all about the personal preference.
Yeah, Ricks are cool. I'll never buy one. Not that I could afford it, but now knowing that I like you said, they're meant to be played. I don't want to own something I don't want to play. I mean, I have a couple instruments that I don't play, maybe because they're fragile or they're kind of beat up. They need work. But for the better part, I want a player's guitar or a player's instrument.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Well, now you know where we stand. Learned some new things about each other. It's same old. We knew a lot already, but still very surprised on some of your picks on that, especially that Dream guitar. I did not expect that.
Really? Yeah.
But that was a cool, fun discussion. And I don't know, let us know. Should we dive into some other stuff? Obviously, I mean, we're to an extent multi-instrumentalist. Nick plays trumpet.
I do.
We're not going to do a podcast about trumpets. I don't know anything about them.
It'll be a very short 5-minute podcast.
But let us know if you want us to dive in anything else. We would love to talk about bass if you think you want to hear about it. It probably would be a shorter podcast. There's anybody out there that plays bass. You're not important. So we're not going to talk about you as much as guitars and drums and things like that. Maybe we could do a bass and drum type thing. So let us know. We can do more on that. But for now, I think this is all the stuff and things about guitars for us.
Yeah, pretty much. And make sure you tune in next week where we dive deep into the meaning of life.
Oh, we're getting even deeper.
Even deeper than last week.
Wow.
Right? And last week was deep.
Yeah. So, and obviously there will be plenty of 42 references. So, yeah, that's cool. Sounds great. Well, you want to send us off?
Toodaloo. Peace.
This has been the Stuff Among Other Things weekly podcast. For a complete list of episodes, visit us on the web at stuffamongotherthings.com.